Did you know that over 1 in 4 immigrants in Britain face discrimination just walking down the street? Some are denied housing, others are underpaid and threatened at work, and many are living in fear of being deported, even if they've done nothing wrong. Behind the politics and headlines, something much deeper is happening. From silent suffering in schools to mental health breakdowns no one talks about, the truth is being buried. Is this the welcoming Britain the world believes in? Or is the reality far more brutal? You're about to hear what most news outlets never show you. These are the 10 shocking truths every person needs to know about what's really happening to immigrants in the UK right now. Number 1. Rising hostility in public spaces. Across the UK, many immigrants are facing a visible rise in hostility during everyday activities. Reports of racial abuse, xenophobic remarks, and cold social exclusion are no longer rare. They're becoming routine. On public transport, in supermarkets, at job interviews, subtle but damaging behaviors are wearing down individuals who simply want to live peacefully. According to the UK Race and Equality Foundation, nearly 25% of migrants report experiencing discrimination in public spaces, often without provocation. The hostility isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the refusal to make eye contact, the sudden change in tone, or the uneasy silence when someone speaks with an accent. This environment creates a constant sense of hyper-awareness. Immigrants often feel they must be extra cautious, constantly adjusting how they speak, dress, and behave just to avoid drawing negative attention. This mental load can be exhausting, especially when combined with the pressure of settling in a new country. Parents worry about their children being bullied in school for having a foreign-sounding name or bringing unfamiliar food for lunch. Professionals feel overlooked or mistrusted because their qualifications come from abroad. Even in multicultural cities like London, invisible walls still divide communities, and people often feel watched, judged, or unwanted. The most painful part? Many immigrants say they've grown to accept mistreatment as normal. They've become experts at shrinking themselves, avoiding confrontation, and blending in just to stay safe. These everyday encounters, though small in isolation, accumulate into a sense of not being welcome. Over time, they erode confidence, silence voices, and diminish the very idea of belonging. While Britain prides itself on being diverse, many immigrants continue to navigate a society where tolerance isn't always practiced, even when it's preached. Number 2. Shrinking legal pathways. Since Brexit, the immigration system in the UK has undergone a dramatic transformation, leaving many migrants with fewer legal options to settle or even seek safety. The points-based immigration system, introduced to prioritize skilled workers, sounds fair on paper. But in practice, it heavily disadvantages low-wage workers, caregivers, and people fleeing conflict. Entire communities that once had routes to family reunification or asylum now find those doors locked shut. The recent Illegal Migration Act makes it clear, if you arrive through unauthorized means, even when escaping war, you won't be allowed to stay. This shift has created a climate of fear and confusion. Thousands of migrants are now stuck in legal limbo, unsure whether they'll be allowed to work, study, or even remain in the country. Lawyers and NGOs report being overwhelmed with cases as the system becomes more complex and unforgiving. One misstep on a visa form, one late document, and a person could face detention or deportation. The policy direction isn't just restrictive, it's punitive. Even refugees who have already arrived safely find themselves facing offshore deportation threats, such as being sent to Rwanda under controversial government deals. The emotional toll is immense. Families live in constant anxiety, children grow up without knowing if they'll be forced to leave the only home they remember, and hardworking adults are treated as if they've committed crimes for simply trying to build a life. These are not just policy shifts, they are lived experiences that reshape daily reality. When legal avenues disappear, desperation increases. People begin to take dangerous risks, falling prey to traffickers or crossing treacherous routes. Britain's message to migrants has become clear. If you don't come through the right door, you're not welcome at all, even if you're running for your life. Number 3. The housing crisis hits harder. Britain's housing crisis is affecting millions, but for immigrants, the situation is often far more severe. Many newly arrived migrants are placed in overcrowded temporary housing, where conditions are not just uncomfortable, they're unsafe. Multiple families may share a single flat, sometimes with 10 or more people confined to 2 rooms. Reports from housing charities reveal that immigrant households are 3 times more likely to live in properties with serious hazards, from mold-covered walls to leaking ceilings and broken heating systems. These aren't rare exceptions. They become part of daily life for thousands. This crisis isn't only about space, it's about dignity and stability. Families often move between shelters, hostels, or short-term rentals with barely a few days' notice. Parents struggle to maintain routines for their children, whose sleep and study suffer in noisy, chaotic environments. Without a fixed address, securing jobs, bank accounts, or even school places becomes nearly impossible. For asylum seekers, the situation is worse. Many are placed in barrack-style accommodations or hotels with minimal privacy, limited food, and no cooking facilities. What's meant to be temporary often stretches into months or even years, turning survival into a daily negotiation. Landlords in the private rental market often exploit immigrants, charging inflated prices for poor-quality homes. And with right-to-rent checks enforced by law, many migrants are denied tenancies purely based on their immigration status. This forces people into unsafe arrangements or pushes them toward illegal housing setups, which are even more vulnerable to abuse. The result? A cycle of poverty, insecurity, and isolation, all reinforced by a system that views housing as a privilege, not a right. In Britain today, finding a safe place to sleep has become one of the hardest challenges for those who've come seeking safety and opportunity. Number 4. Exploitation in the workplace. For many immigrants in Britain, securing a job doesn't guarantee stability or fair treatment. Instead, it often opens the door to exploitation, especially in sectors like cleaning, care work, agriculture, and hospitality. These jobs are vital to the UK economy, but the people behind them are frequently underpaid, overworked, and denied basic rights. A 2022 report from the Trades Union Congress, TUC, revealed that 60% of migrant workers experience wage theft, contract manipulation, or unsafe working conditions. For some, speaking up means losing their job, or worse, being reported to immigration authorities. The fear of deportation keeps many silent, even when the abuse is clear. Some employers deliberately use workers' immigration status as leverage, knowing they won't report labor violations. Stories of 12-hour shifts with no breaks, no sick pay, and verbal harassment are common. In sectors like home care, many migrants work in isolation, visiting multiple homes a day with little oversight and no support. Without union representation or secure contracts, they're left vulnerable, even as they carry out some of the country's most essential work, caring for the elderly, cleaning hospitals, picking food in harsh weather. What makes this more damaging is the public perception. Immigrants are often blamed for taking jobs, even while being treated as disposable labor behind the scenes. Meanwhile, employers who exploit them face little consequence. This contradiction reveals a deeper issue. The system relies on migrant labor, but refuses to protect it. Until legal safeguards are enforced and accountability increases, immigrants will continue working in fear, contributing quietly to society while being systematically devalued. They are not just workers. They are people trying to survive in a country that benefits from their labor but rarely respects their humanity. Number 5. Targeted by policy, not protected. Over the last few years, British immigration policy has shifted from integration to deterrence. Instead of offering support, the government has rolled out measures designed to make life intentionally difficult for migrants. One example is the Illegal Migration Act, which strips many people of the right to claim asylum based on how they arrived. Policies like the Rwanda deportation plan have added fear to daily life, sending a chilling message. If you come here the wrong way, you'll be sent away, no matter your story. Even those with legal visas now worry they'll be swept up in the next crackdown. Legal status doesn't always mean protection. Many migrants with valid documents, jobs, and families still face sudden visa denials, home office delays, or even detention without warning. In some cases, parents have been separated from their children due to paperwork issues. Charities like Refugee Council report an increase in homelessness among migrants, even those who were once legally settled. The shift in policy means services are harder to access. People fear going to hospitals or reporting crimes, worried it might lead to an immigration check instead of help. These laws don't just change procedures, they change how migrants are viewed and treated. By painting them as problems to manage rather than people to support, the system encourages distrust, hostility, and exclusion. It becomes harder for migrants to feel safe or welcome, and easier for society to turn away from their struggles. What's unfolding is more than bureaucracy. It's a deliberate effort to make migrants feel like outsiders, no matter how long they've lived, worked, or contributed to the country. Policy is no longer about who belongs, but about who can be pushed out quietly. Number 6. Education gaps and isolation. For immigrant children entering the British school system, the classroom can quickly become a place of confusion and exclusion. Many arrive with limited English skills, unfamiliar with local customs, and completely new to the curriculum. Despite their potential, they're often placed in classrooms without dedicated language support, expected to adapt instantly. A study by UCL's Institute of Education found that recently arrived students often fall behind academically, not because of intelligence, but due to lack of tailored resources. These early gaps can follow them for years, limiting future opportunities and confidence. Social integration can be just as difficult. Many migrant students experience bullying for their accents, cultural practices, or appearance. Some isolate themselves to avoid mockery, leading to deep feelings of loneliness. Teachers, often overworked, may not have the tools or training to address these issues. Parents, unfamiliar with the British school system, struggle to advocate for their children. Without support at school and at home, many kids begin to feel like outsiders, even if they were born in the UK. This can lead to school avoidance, lower attendance, and in some cases, dropping out entirely. But the effects don't end with children. Adults also face major barriers when trying to access education and training. English classes often have long waiting lists, and vocational courses are rarely available for those on temporary visas. This leaves many adults unable to improve their skills or pursue better jobs. Education should be a pathway to integration, but for many migrants, it becomes a source of frustration and exclusion. When people are denied the tools to learn, they're denied the chance to contribute fully. And when children grow up feeling rejected by the classroom, it shapes how they see their place in society. Number 7. Mental health is quietly crumbling. Behind the headlines and policy debates, many immigrants are quietly battling a mental health crisis. The emotional weight of displacement, uncertainty, and daily discrimination can be overwhelming. Migrants often carry trauma from conflict zones, experiences of family separation, or the stress of navigating a new culture without support. Yet access to mental health services remains limited. Language barriers, fear of stigma, and concern over immigration status keep many from seeking help. According to the British Journal of Psychiatry, migrants are at higher risk of depression, anxiety, and PTSD, but far less likely to receive care. Even when services are available, they're not always equipped to help. Therapists may lack cultural awareness, and interpreters, if available, can make sessions feel less private. Many migrants feel that providers don't understand the depth of their experience or the pressures they face outside the therapy room, like housing instability or visa stress. The system assumes a level of stability that many immigrants simply don't have. As a result, many suffer in silence, developing chronic stress, sleep problems, or even physical symptoms that mask deeper emotional pain. This hidden crisis affects not just individuals, but entire families. Parents under emotional strain may struggle to support their children, creating a cycle of generational stress. Young people who grow up witnessing their families struggle may internalize feelings of hopelessness or shame. Without proper mental health support, people are left to carry invisible burdens that make everything else, working, learning, connecting, even harder. Mental health isn't a luxury. It's a foundation for rebuilding lives. Yet in Britain today, many migrants are left without that foundation, expected to survive emotionally on their own, in a country that too often sees their pain, but doesn't act on it. Number 8. Media scapegoating fuels division. Immigrants in Britain aren't just facing challenges in real life, they're also being targeted by headlines. From tabloids to talk shows, the media has played a central role in shaping a narrative of fear and blame. Words like invasion, illegals, and drain on the system appear in coverage far more often than words like community, contribution, or resilience. A 2024 report by Ofcom found that immigration is the most misrepresented issue in British media, with coverage often based on emotionally charged stories rather than facts. These portrayals distort public understanding and stoke resentment. This constant scapegoating has consequences. Studies from King's College London show that people exposed to negative media about immigrants are more likely to support hostile policies and believe harmful myths, such as the idea that migrants receive preferential treatment or don't contribute taxes. Even when stories are debunked, the damage sticks. For many viewers, the image of the dangerous migrant becomes embedded in the national conversation, influencing elections, policies, and social attitudes. Immigrants, meanwhile, are left trying to prove their worth in a society that constantly questions their presence. This isn't just about misinformation, it's about how people feel in their everyday lives. Imagine seeing your community portrayed as a threat on TV while being part of the workforce, paying rent, and raising your children in that same society. The impact is psychological and social. People withdraw, lose trust, and feel permanently on edge. When media dehumanizes immigrants, it becomes easier for society to turn away from their suffering. It's not just poor journalism, it's a force that shapes the national mood. And in today's Britain, that mood too often swings toward division over dialogue and fear over facts. Number 9. Community resilience amid struggle. Despite the challenges, immigrant communities across Britain are showing incredible resilience. Faced with exclusion, many have responded by building their own support networks, turning struggle into solidarity. In cities like Birmingham, Glasgow, and Manchester, you'll find migrant-led initiatives offering free English lessons, legal aid, job mentoring, and mental health workshops. These aren't large institutions, they're often run by volunteers who have been through the system themselves. When official support is missing, communities are stepping up to create spaces of safety, belonging, and empowerment. Local businesses have also become sources of strength. Immigrants are opening restaurants, shops, and care services that don't just serve their own communities, they enrich the broader public. According to Oxford's Migration Observatory, migrants are twice as likely to start a business as British-born citizens. These ventures generate jobs, foster cultural exchange, and prove that immigrants are not just surviving, they're actively rebuilding society from the ground up. Food banks, translation services, and cultural centers have become lifelines, especially for those facing legal uncertainty or financial hardship. But resilience shouldn't be romanticized. These efforts emerge out of necessity, not abundance. Many of the people running these programs are under intense pressure themselves, juggling work, family, and immigration stress, yet still choose to lift others up. Their resilience reflects a deep-rooted refusal to give up, even when the system works against them. These acts of quiet resistance remind us that community is still possible, even in hostile environments. They offer a different narrative, one where immigrants are seen not as problems to solve, but as people with solutions, creativity, and strength. In the shadows of exclusion, these communities are planting seeds of hope, healing, and radical care. Number 10. A battle over belonging. At the heart of Britain's immigration debate lies a deeper, more emotional question: who truly belongs? For many immigrants, even those born in the UK, the answer feels uncertain. They may hold British passports, speak perfect English, and celebrate national holidays, yet still be asked, where are you really from? It's a question loaded with meaning, a reminder that in the eyes of some, they'll never be fully British. This feeling of being permanently othered isn't tied to documents or jobs. It's woven into everyday interactions, policies, and unspoken social cues. Second-generation immigrants often grow up navigating a double identity. At home, they uphold their family's culture. Outside, they're expected to assimilate, often at the cost of their heritage. When they succeed, they're called exceptions. When they protest injustice, they're told to be grateful. This emotional tug-of-war creates a complex relationship with the idea of home. Even those who've lived in Britain for decades, paid taxes, and raised families are still told they should go back where they came from when political tensions rise. Belonging, in this climate, becomes conditional, based on silence, conformity, or convenience. This is more than social discomfort. It shapes policy, opportunity, and identity. When belonging is restricted, so is access to housing, healthcare, education, and political power. People begin to shrink themselves, avoiding conflict just to fit in. But belonging isn't a reward for perfection. It's a human need. Everyone deserves to feel safe where they live, to contribute without fear, and to be seen as part of the community. In today's Britain, immigrants are not just fighting for legal status or jobs. They're fighting for the right to be seen, heard, and accepted. The true immigration story is not just about borders. It's about belonging and dignity. Everything you've just heard isn't theory. It's the daily reality for millions of people who live, work, and raise their families in Britain. These stories are not about numbers or policies. They're about human beings, fighting not just for survival, but for the right to feel safe, seen, and valued. The truth is, immigration isn't tearing Britain apart, injustice is. And the more we ignore it, the more we allow cruelty to become the norm. Now we want to hear from you. Have you witnessed these challenges? Lived through them? Or maybe you've seen the other side, the strength, the resistance, the hope. Drop your experience, your thoughts, your truth in the comments. Let's create a space where voices can't be erased. We put a massive amount of time, research, and care into creating videos like this. If you believe these stories deserve to be heard, help us keep going. It takes just 1 second to support us. Hit that subscribe button, yes, that one right there. It's just one click, but it means the world to us.